Any person who has stood before an audience to give a speech, a teaching, a sermon can tell you about the moment that they realized their audience had already checked out. They were basically wasting their time. Today's Foundations for Life is about relevance. How do you keep people engaged long enough to help them understand that the Torah is for them, that it's relevant to their lives? Today, I have with me as my esteemed co-host, Mr. Relevant, Mike Clayton. He's very close. So thank you, Mike, for joining me today. Teach us about relevance.
Well, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do today. I'm trying to put a few words together. I just got back in about 600 and something miles in the last 27 hours. I was over in Alabama with a mutual friend, Hulk Young. And so let's see what we can come up with here regarding relevance. I guess the first thing to talk about on this would be, why would we talk about relevance? Okay, look around you. Let's go back. Look at your congregation. Look at our congregations. And now I can do that because we have a congregation here and have had for a few months. Is the congregation growing? Are people engaged? Are people active? Are people involved? Are we trying to figure out, okay, how do we fit all the people that are coming here? If those questions are like, well, we don't have any problem with space. We don't have any problem with any of these issues because people just kind of show up, and then when it's all over, they just leave. And we'll see them again next week. Why is that? Is it possible that we're meeting together to study the Torah, to find Yeshua in the Torah, only for our own religious activity, and not to learn, to experience, to be a part of something that makes it where when we walk out the door, we are relevant to those that are outside the door. See, if we're not relevant to those that are outside the door, we may end up becoming bored with those that are inside the door.
So, Mike, if we have a coworker, family member, neighbor that we're not aware of what their needs are, what their life is about, we really don't know how to speak to them about such situations. Let's take a comparison here. You have a neighbor, a family next door, somewhere down the road, and their marriage is not altogether what it needs to be. Maybe they're more combative and fussing than they are embracing and loving. It's normal for their children to hear high voices and angry tones, and they've come to expect, well, this is what everyone else does as well. Mm-hmm. If we have the same issue in our house, I have no ability to speak to my neighbors about their issue because while I may understand what they're going through a bit, I have no vantage point of saying there's a better way. If we don't offer something that meets a felt need of some sort, we're not relevant. If we're walking the same path that they are, we have nothing to offer. The Torah should be helping us, not leaving us in status quo.
Let me ask you like this. I think that before we approach someone else with the message that we have, we need to ask ourselves, is it working for me?
That's true.
If the message that I'm portraying is not working for me, then how can I expect it to work for someone else? Now, here's what happens is you have this message that you're supposed to have. Okay, it's like drilled into us from birth of the message of Messiah and salvation and obedience and all these things, and then we put Torah in on top of all that and find out what we're supposed to be obedient to, and then we start to consider all that and then try to think, okay, well, is it really working for me? Well, the answer is no. But if I can get enough people around me that agree with me, then maybe it will work. That doesn't happen either. Sometimes you got to step back and you got to say, does the message that I'm trying to reveal to others, is that message true? Is that message relevant? Is that message working? I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, I like to go out to this specific place. I have no idea where it is. He says, I just sit there and wait for people to walk by. And he says, when they walk by, I engage them and ask them, have you received Jesus into your heart? Now, to me, I think that's, I never was that street preacher or throw a track at somebody person. I couldn't do that. He said he had a lady walk by the other day. He says, hi, how are you? Do you have Jesus in your heart? And the lady says, I'm confirmed. He says, yes, but do you have Jesus in your heart? She says, I'm Catholic. But do you have Jesus in your heart? I'm confirmed. See, he wasn't relevant. He wasn't relevant. He thought that he was relevant, but he was answering questions that she wasn't asking. So before you can become an answer to someone, you got to find out what questions in life are they asking.
Mm-hmm.
But before you can do that, the whole thing has to be tested out. If what I'm standing up teaching Shabbat after Shabbat, Tuesday morning after Tuesday morning with my living Torah, usually Wednesday morning with you. Today we're running a little late because my travels, and even the Israel update with Noah. If what I'm teaching is not working for me, then why in the world would I want to give it to somebody else?
You're sitting with somebody who is in a health crisis, talking to them on the phone, and they're in a situation, they don't eat right, they don't eat clean, but they're in a health crisis of some sort. They may not be the most relevant opportunity to speak to them about, well, if you would only eat a biblical diet, you would be in this place.
Though that may be true.
And it may be true, but timing is everything. What they need to know at that moment is you care. You're there to encourage them, pray with them, try to get them through this, whatever the crisis is. After you've made some headway there, then it might be an opportune time to say, have you considered your diet?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you need to lose weight. You hear the word diet, you immediately think weight loss. Diet, just what foods are you putting in? I don't want to see you go through this health crisis again. Are you willing to talk about your regular diet? And then, work our way into the scripture says pertaining to that. Now, if they're, especially here in the South, if they grew up eating pork products on a regular basis, or especially here on the East Coast section of the Tidewater in Virginia, sea crustaceans of various types and sorts, you when you realize that an oyster is a filter, it's a vacuum cleaner filter for the water. No one would take the vacuum cleaner bag out of your vacuum cleaner, lay it up on the table, open it up, give everybody a fork, say dig in. That would be.
Well, if they're going to do that, okay, let me give you, the next couple of days, my light just came on in my FJ. And so the next couple of days, I've got to change the oil. And so I went and bought a filter Now, I didn't go to Walmart and buy the Fram because it's a cheap filter. It doesn't work. They fall apart. It does more damage sometimes. I went to Toyota. I bought an actual filter, okay, from Toyota, the manufacturer, because the manufacturer always knows the best product for that which has been manufactured. So I will be taking the old oil filter out that has had 5,100 miles of 0W20 synthetic oil in it. If anyone would like to have that for dinner, I'd be glad to send it to them. You can have it next to your oysters. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
The sea crustaceans were put there to filter the water to keep it clean.
Yeah.
You maybe, but me preaching kosher diet, clean diet to someone who's got their fingers in their ears, I'm wasting time. If they're looking at me and saying, well, I just don't believe he'll send me to hell for a ham sandwich. It's time to pick another topic. Here's the key, Mike, and I was pondering this morning and asking, Father, how do we address this thought? Unless the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, is drawing somebody to have a willingness of change in their life and a willingness to listen. Sometimes you're just, you're trying to plow concrete and it's not going to work. There has to be a spiritual prep in somebody's life. They have to ask the questions. I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired of this health crisis showing up again and again. What do I do? Well, now that you've asked, I got a couple thoughts. Are you willing to listen to that? There has to be a reason for the relevance. But you can, we pride ourselves on our knowledge. Years and years ago, before, I was still a teenager teaching Sunday school. And the pastor at the time told me, among other Sunday school teachers, the key to being a successful Sunday school teacher is not just to go through the notes and this book that you have, the Sunday School Quarterly. Somebody might actually remember what those were.
Yeah.
It's relevance. So don't just use the commentary here. What does this set of scriptures say to us in your day-to-day living? Mm-hmm. If it doesn't help somebody on Tuesday morning when they get up and go to work or begin their day, what does it mean? So what that a Hebrew word can be broken down and by its paleo-symbolic letters, it can mean thus and such. If it doesn't really help during the week.
Yeah.
We're offering information that may or may not be relevant. It may be interesting. It could be intriguing. You may be just scratching a golden nugget itch.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not relevance. I look at my congregation. I look at others when I visit other congregations. And there are those that they come, they take notes, and they don't read them during the week. They don't apply them during the week. Nothing means anything during the week. And they come back and add more notes to their notebook on the following Shabbat. What are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing anything different than what we've already done elsewhere.
A steak dinner is irrelevant to a person who has just eaten 3 steak dinners.
Okay.
If you're so full, when you walk in, you don't want anything. So let me give you a couple things. Okay. First of all, let's go back. You talked about, what was it you talked about? You talk about people
you checked out already.
No, I got it. No, I was just seeing if you were still there. You talked about somebody being open. Most people are not open to a discussion today. They're not open to dialogue because they think, well, I've got all the answers. I can do it. This independent thing. We're not used to someone coming to us and helping us in our lives. Okay, so some people, you go to them and you say something, they're kind of checked out. Okay, they're listening, they're acknowledging audible vibrations in the air, but that's about it. The second thing is, if you find an opening, if you find a person that's open to something, but you have no desire to be a part of their lives or to care about them, and you go to them, it's like the guy that's sitting there going, hey, have you accepted Jesus in your heart? Just looking for a notch in the spiritual holster. And this guy has got great intentions. Okay, I'm not judging him. His intentions are without reproach, but he hasn't sat back and thought through it. Give you an example. Go to a conference, go to a meeting, go to your local congregation, go to someone else, wherever else you go. If I hear a good sermon from a good teaching from someone, I'll usually walk up to the speaker. If I don't know them, especially, I'll walk up to the speaker and try to engage them. Try to engage them in some kind of conversation. Because in that engaging them, I'll find out if they really care about me receiving the message or about me just hearing the message. Was the message for them so they can feel good about themselves? Or did they really give that message because they cared about the people they were giving it to? Caring about someone. When an opportunity opens itself for someone that needs something, or are you just there to kind of, get that spiritual notch in the holster and be able to share with your spouse that night how wonderful you were? Or did you really care about the person? We live in a society, Barry, that's so shallow. And maybe that's the place of irrelevance, that the shallowness of relationships does not allow us to be truly relevant in each other's lives.
There is a potential mindset that says that the Torah is such an ancient code of requirements that it cannot fit in modern society.
Yeah.
It's much easier to say, well, we have to preach other topics. If we're going to go to the Brit Hadashah, we're in the book of Romans or Ephesians. Every one of those books that are written there are based upon Torah concepts.
Sure.
They were written by people who were trained in yeshivas, who grew up understanding the Torah first. Their entire world was a Torah-centric world. And that's the vantage point that they wrote from. So when we get to the book of Matthew, the old is not over. No, it's revisited and it's stated again. But the key is, it's been the attempt is made to now make it relevant to non-Torah societies. Corinth, Ephesus, Galatia areas were not Torah-centric, but the letters were written to them. Keeper wrote to those that were of the tribes of Israel scattered abroad. They were living in exile. Let me help you. This is something that you need to be focused on. But again, it's based on Torah principles. Maybe it would help us to be more relevant, to produce a little less Torah fact and more Torah principle.
Okay, you mentioned turning from the Torah into the Gospels. What did Yeshua do? Were the religious leaders, and I'm not one that bashes the rabbinic commentaries. That's not me. Okay, I don't just bash everything. But were the religious leaders of the day relevant
to themselves,
to the day-to-day life of people that they were speaking to? I would say, for the most part, no. They had separated themselves into a different class. It's kind of like, today you watch all the politics and stuff. These people in Washington today think they're relevant. Not to use bad language, but Nancy Pelosi believes that she's relevant. Talk about the most irrelevant person in the world right now. So were the leaders of the day relevant? I would say no. So Yeshua comes on the scene, and what does he do? He brings relevance. He takes the Torah and he puts it into the people's lives in a place that they can say, oh, this is what it means. This is how I can do. And so we're kind of in the same kind of a struggle today, that people have gone to denomination after denomination, church after church, synagogue after synagogue, Messianic, Hebrew roots, community after community, all these different places, and that they haven't found anybody that's relevant. So when you come along and you start to speak something of relevance, they're like, what is this? They don't know what to do with it because they haven't heard. They haven't heard anything. So we have to get through that because they're closed. Because of all the irrelevance that they have heard, they now see the next person in line as, well, you're just as irrelevant as anybody else. It's like when the worst job I ever had in the world was selling cars. Especially, I couldn't stand that job, especially on Saturday afternoon. Anybody walking onto a car lot on Saturday afternoon had been beat up by every salesman in town. They had their car, their keys of their used car, their old car taken from them. Some of them have had the keys thrown on the roof. They've been lied to. They've been abused. And here I am standing on a car lot, and somebody walks up and I say, hi, how are you doing? Could I help you? And they look at me and go, get out of my face. We got the same thing, Barry. So trying to bridge the gap, maybe I do have a better vehicle, pun intended. Maybe I can make them a better deal. But I've got to prove to them first that they're not just another person on the lot that I'm waiting to get into their pocket.
Mm-hmm. Mike, you would have a hard time selling someone else a vehicle if they saw that your vehicle smoked like a freight train when it was cranked and chattered like a helicopter wing or a blade trying to take off or something other. Yeah. If you're driving a piece of junk and not happy with yours, why would they buy anything from you off of your lot? If the Torah is not working for us, if my health is not improved because of what I eat and what I don't eat, if my relationships and my family are broken and angry and not functioning correctly, I have no room to talk to anyone else. Mm-hmm. The greatest relevance that we can describe the Torah to other people in is that it works for us. In the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 6 and 7 says, and you shall guard and do them, talking about the Torah commands. For this is your wisdom and your understanding before the eyes of the peoples who hear all these laws, and they shall say, only a wise and understanding people is this great nation. For what great nation is there that has Elohim so near to it? As Yahweh our Elohim is to us, whenever we call on him. If my family functions right, effectively, let's put it that way. If those who know you want to be with you, if people are turning and walking away from you before you get to them, something's wrong. So if people want to be around you, people pause to hear what you have to say, you have ears to listen to someone else without trying to figure out your answer while they're talking, just listening to them. If you show people you care, if you're not broke and disgusted all the time, everybody goes through a financial crunch. Everybody. But if you are effective in your finances, if you're effective in your health, you're effective in your relationships, in your community, if you have a smile on your face, you want to be relevant, put a smile on your face and act like what you're living is a joy to live. Mm-hmm. The number one accusation when you tell somebody how you practice your belief, isn't that bondage? Why would you go back to the law? Well, if it's law and bondage is written on your face, you're not going to be relevant to anybody. But it really does go back to what we learned in church evangelistic circles years and years ago. Joy, happiness goes a long ways to help us on to want what you have. I heard a song many decades ago, if you're happy, notify your face.
Yeah, yes.
So a smile says, I have something to offer to you.
Mm-hmm. And Barry, it's like, I got the joy of the Lord in my, I got the joy down in my heart. Okay, well, let it out.
Let it out.
Yeah. But if all we are doing is portraying the same conspiracies as everybody else, then what's our relevance? So what is important to you is what you will speak of.
Yeah.
What is important is what you will speak of. What is at the center of your life is what you will speak of. So if our conversation is just the same, people are looking for relevance, okay? They're looking today for relevance. They're looking for something that works today. But if your relationship with the Almighty, if it's evident that it's not working for you, they're gonna go somewhere else and find something else. They're gonna go over and this is I get in trouble here. That's fine. Whatever. I'm tired. One of the most irrelevant conversations today is the shape of the earth. It's irrelevant. What does it matter? What matters is the condition of the world. The shape of the earth doesn't matter. It's the condition of the world. So you have, if you're not able to be relevant in the changing of the condition of the world, you'll focus on the distraction of the shape of the earth.
Another situation of that, a couple, and I may get into trouble. That's all right. We have spent years focusing on the Nephilim. The last time they were on the earth in a visible form, Yah said not to fear them. He destroyed them.
Yeah.
So if they show up again by whatever means, look for a repeat performance. It's going to be okay. The other one is who started the sickness that went throughout the earth? Was it man-made or leaked out of a lab or how in that natural? It doesn't matter. If someone's going through the symptoms, that's your focus. Praying for them and asking the Father to heal. It really, I guess I've been accused of a conspiracy theories type of stuff because I've mentioned this situation over the last year and a half or so on occasion at House of David. It's not a conspiracy theory as much as it is, this is where people are at and this is what they're dealing with and they're tired of restrictions, etc. So I speak to the felt need and what the word says about it. we don't camp there. You try, if you have to mention it, you mention it and move on. It's not a whole.
How do I overcome it?
How do we get healing?
Yeah.
The greatest relevance that we can have is a restoration of the gift of healing, that anyone who has these symptoms, we can lay hands on them, pray over them, and they instantly get healed. Now, that would make us relevant.
Yeah, if you're driving down the road and you look up and there's a semi truck in your lane, you're really not concerned about, wow, I wonder if that's UPS or FedEx. I wonder if it's a Walmart truck. And what color is the driver? And I wonder what they had for breakfast this morning. And what are they hauling? You don't care. What are you trying to do? All you want to do is try to figure out, how do I overcome this situation? How do I get myself through this situation alive? So somebody's laying there in a bed sick. They can barely get out of bed. They're coughing. They're scared. They're fearful at the moment because of all the fear that's been portrayed on them through all the media and all the junk and all the hype. They're laying there. They're fearful. They're sick. And you stand beside their bed and give them a dissertation of where it came from. That doesn't help them to overcome.
No.
You can lecture them all day about why they shouldn't have eaten this and done this and gotten. No, how do I overcome? You want to be relevant today? Figure out how to help people overcome, but do so by helping the person you look at in the mirror be the overcomer first. An overcomer helps other people to overcome.
Yeah. Well, it does come
down to, I'm going to overcome it all with a nap.
It does help someone to have confidence that you can help them if you've helped yourself.
That's right. So I'm going to go help myself with a nap and try to get coherent again, because I've figured out, Barry, that driving 600 or 700 miles, speaking, all that stuff, that was a lot easier 10 years ago.
I can't help you overcome getting old, Mike.
I didn't say I was getting old. I just said that I was having, because the traffic is different today, see? Yeah. And the construction is different today, and it's the ethanol and the gas, and couldn't possibly be me, Barry.
No.
Come on, brother.
No. I perish the thought. I apologize. Folks, thank you for watching Foundations for Life today. Hopefully something said will spark interest, be relevant to you, encouraging to you, instructional to you, and forward your comments to us. We'd love to read them. Share on your social media pages, and we'll see you again next week. Good night, Mike.
Good night, Barry.